When it comes to Flare, what's my reaction as of right now, even though nothing I say is financial advice? Well, first of all, my perspective is that when it comes to this, the current market cap, because of the pullback, is around a billion. Not too long ago, it was around 2 billion, and that was back in September, near the end of September, basically. But for whatever reason, the sentiment as of right now doesn't feel as good as compared to back then. Let's say back in, we take a look at April, when the market cap was actually around 740 million. But why is that the case? Well, it's because I think it's the timeline. Things are taking a little bit longer than expected, and some people out there thought that, oh, maybe could there be an altcoin season near the end of this year? But then, so far, we haven't really seen it. So I think that prolonged timeline has actually made the sentiment when it comes to Flare seemingly not as positive when compared to just not too long ago, when even though the market cap was lower back then. But at a time when things are generally not doing the best when it comes to the sentiment, when it comes to the altcoin space, what I often focus on is the projects, to me at least, which I'm a fan of fundamentally. Because as of right now, what I'm seeing is that even projects out there that aren't known to have the best fundamentals, they're also having a pullback. The ones that are known for having good fundamentals, they're also having a pullback. So if the ones that aren't known to have good fundamentals and the ones that are known to have good fundamentals are also both in a situation where they have a pullback, I'm going to be focusing on the ones that I actually like fundamentally. It's like, for instance, let's say I am walking inside a car dealership. Let's say it's a used car dealership, and let's say for whatever reason, a car with like 200,000 miles compared to a car that has 100,000 miles, they're both having a discount. Of course, at that point, I'm going to be focusing on the ones that has lower miles on the odometer, right? This is my perspective. So when it comes to this space, it's kind of no different the way I take a look at it, even though I am not telling anyone to do anything. But my perspective is that when it comes to Flare, the fundamentals hasn't changed, in my opinion, in any sort of non-positive direction, because it still seems like it's pretty good to me. Like, for instance, what is kind of a big narrative as of right now when it comes to Flare? Sure, it's a blockchain for data, but I think sometimes that gets a little bit boring, right? I think sometimes what people focus on is the aspects of XRP-Fi. But still, if let's say there was an altcoin season, that right there, I think could maybe be something people take a look into when it comes to the aspect when it comes to Flare. Because let's face it, for quite a while, Flare was kind of viewed as a little bit boring, but then as they talked more about XRP-Fi and all this, it just became a little bit more, I think, kind of known. So if let's say there is an altcoin season, if let's say things were maybe better than what I saw back in September, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. Not to mention, when I take a look at the DeFi ecosystem when it comes to Flare, this sometimes is not really talked about that much, but I do want to talk about it because I feel like it's kind of an integral part to Flare overall. If we take a look at, let's say, there's a lot of projects out there that have a DeFi aspect. Flare is not the only one. However, when I take a look at Gravity Research, talking about how the DeFi market is expected to be worth over 200 billion by 2030, I think that as of right now, sure, there's a lot of players, but if a market could maybe be that massive, hypothetically, I don't think that there's an oversaturation currently, especially when it comes to the projects that are pretty well known and have pretty okay fundamentals. Like, there's a lot of options, but then in terms of the ones that have actual kind of following and have a reputation for good fundamentals, there's not too many in my perspective. So I do like seeing that when it comes to Flare as well. And I think oftentimes something that's a little bit underrated as well when it comes to Flare is that we do know that Flare has two data acquisition protocols, right? Which is the data connector and as well as the Flare time series oracle. But sometimes that aspect right there, again, the Flare time series oracle, it's not talked about that much, but we have to think about this, right? When it comes to the narrative of oracles, what has been proven to kind of known to have that pretty okay popularity? Something like Chainlink, because Chainlink is very well known for its aspect when it comes to its decentralized oracle network. That's pretty well known. But then the thing is, within that oracle space, there's not that many. I mean, if I think about that oracle space, right, if I exclude Flare, I pretty much only think about 3 projects, but the thing is, only one is pretty much well known. It's like, for instance, Chainlink, which I think is the most popular within that space. Then oftentimes I also take a look at Pith, or should I say, the blockchain oracle for market data, which again Pith is. And then we take a look at something called Dia. Now, Dia, which is spelled D-I-A, it's nowhere near as popular as Pith, but then the thing is, Pith is nowhere near as popular as Chainlink. So there's still this kind of big discrepancy within that space. So when I take a look at FTSO, again, the Flare time series oracle, which is the native oracle for Flare, that is something that I'm a fan of because if I just take a look at an oracle, what is it, right? It's basically a data feed that brings off-chain data into the blockchain. The reason why is because many decentralized applications out there do need off-chain data in order to basically kind of function properly. So because there's many decentralized applications, naturally something like Chainlink just gained popularity as I think the amount of decentralized applications kind of became more, I would say, right? Which I've seen historically, and I see something like Chainlink. This is just my perception when it comes to that situation. But the thing is, FLR isn't really known for that sometimes. So that's something I often focus on. Now, if I take a look at it as well, people like to say, well, FLR seems kind of simple. Why would you care about that? Well, my perspective is that if a project is too overly complicated, I don't think it's going to do well in the long term, at least in terms of the perception, because if a project tries to describe themselves in a very complicated way, I think it's actually cool maybe in the beginning, but it's kind of counterintuitive as time goes on because how can I understand a project if I don't know what it is? And what I like about FLR as well is that when it comes to, I would say, the use case of it, it's not something I would automatically find cool or interesting at first glance. It's more something I have to take a look into. Like, for instance, a lot of my friends out there, they're not entering this space because of FLR. You know what I mean? This is more of a project that, let's say I'm in this space, I take a look at it, then I kind of research more, then I find something like it. It's not just automatically something that I know, even if I don't know anything about this space. Like, for instance, if I don't know this space at all, I'm going to think about Ethereum, Bitcoin, all this. I'm not going to be thinking about FLR. But I don't mind that because I don't necessarily expect FLR to hypothetically, start breaking milestones or something like that. Because if we take a look at 25 cents, sure, it's nearly an 18x from here, and the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be nearly 20 billion. Like, that's not going to be breaking any milestones. But I don't mind, in my perspective, if that even ever hypothetically happens, because to me, even with what is Ethereum looking at right now, at above 3 grand, if it goes to 10 grand, it's not like it's going to be hypothetically a 5x and all. No. So just in my mind, even if FLR just went to, 10 cents, it's still something I wouldn't necessarily complain about in my perspective. But who knows, only time will tell. Now, I get it, when it comes to FLR, has it ever seen like a market cap of 5 billion and all this? No, I haven't seen that, but also at the same time, I don't think I've seen an altcoin season during this cycle either. So it's just a combination of me finding a project that I am a fan of, and at the same time just waiting for an altcoin season if it ever even happens. But ultimately, I can't demand that to happen. At the end of the day, all I can do is just stay patient, and I'm dollar cost averaging once a month. Personally, for me, I never find this perfect moment where I just try to enter. No, because there's going to be many ups and downs, like when it comes to this altcoin space, especially when it comes to something like FLR, which doesn't have the biggest market cap out there. So there's still going to be a lot of those movements, in my perspective. Maybe not as much as a microcap, maybe not as much as something that has a market cap that's like 10 times less, but I'm saying it's still going to have that because at around $1 billion in market cap, it's not the biggest thing out there. So to me, what I do is I dollar cost average once a month. That's it. I am not telling anyone to do anything. And sure, if I'm dollar cost averaging once a month, there may be times I dollar cost average when the market cap is relatively speaking like below $1 billion. There's going to be times when I'm dollar cost averaging at above $1 billion. But then throughout that journey, I'm not going to be able to know when exactly FLR is going to do its thing. So this is why I'm just doing it once a month and that's it. I am not checking my portfolio every 5 or 10 minutes. I mean, there's literally other things I think better for me to do. Like, for instance, riding a bicycle, going to the park, running, hanging out with friends, going to the movies. Even though a lot of my friends don't really go to the movies anymore, but sometimes it's still cool to do that. There's other things to do, in my perspective, other than just taking a look at the portfolio. All I'm doing is just dollar cost averaging once a month and that's it. If I'm focusing each and every single day on what the price is doing and all this, it's probably going to stress me out, in my perspective. So I just don't do that. I'm just going to do what I've been doing once a month. That's it. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but my reaction as of right now when it comes to FLR is that, yes, it's having a pullback, but a bunch of projects are also having a pullback. So I'm still going to stay patient and just do what I've been doing throughout this whole time and just waiting. That's about it. And I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you all have a nice day. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.